Hey everybody, this is the Shades Man in the house, and today we're going to do some decal, a tutorial on decals. As you know, decals are a really great way to make or break a map thematically. Like, it'll differentiate your snap maps from others out there, and you'll be able to pull off a wide variety of environments and areas you wouldn't otherwise with just the default snap map look. So to start, what I have here is a snowy landscape, my ethereal shard level 3. We're not going to look at this the whole time, we're going to go into other things too. Now, it is important to know both the list of decals, I have an idea what they are, and the effects they might have, and how they work in different module lighting schemes in filter effects. So yeah, what we got here, we're just using one of the ground decals, but with the almost like pinkish whitish color. Relative opacity, nothing special there. And I use that as snow. Just some white decals of the right variety. And I plaster them all over the ground on top of stone, so it doesn't look just like a plain ground. I intermix that with one of my go-to decals. All this is this one here, organic. And I find this is a great decal to represent craters in the ground, sand, etc. I used to use ones like this, but those have fallen out of favor for me. Just by default, they're a bit too, yeah. Also, it's important to notice how I like to use certain ground decals to simulate ice, to simulate disodium, if I can get to it, as well as other effects. I always use the same ground decals for this same set of decals represent fluids. This is my, if I can actually select it. See, it's important to change the thicknesses of the decals if you want to have an order of selection. That's how depth handles things, and depth is actually a good tool for decals as well because it'll allow you to like hug corners. You'll see what I mean in a moment. I have a maximum depth a lot of the time, if it serves. So anyways, this type of decal, which I'm not in the right one, I'm actually on one of the shapes decals, and those are also useful because that can simulate lighting without using resources, and and I'll show you the room where I really use it. I use it here, but it's more apparent elsewhere. Anywho, I'll delete that, I don't care because I'm not going to save this. This decal is my go-to decal. I go to the ground decals and I have a whole bunch of, I don't know what you would call those, but basically it's like 2/3 down, right above the ones I use for snow. Oh, and these track decals, they're good as well to simulate many things, including tire treads. I also use it for climbing and more. I have the Doom Eternal kind of climb-ups going on. I always like to mark those with this decal here, and that's in blood. I find blood is a great way to use symbols rather than blood, because the symbols within the blood kind of have a really cool fade-off effect. The top ones fade off are brighter than the bottom ones, and if you want it to be even more faint in a way, you can use the bottom ones as well. Like this here, for example. Because they have more symbols elsewhere in the decals, but the blood ones I find are the best to work with, and I use those in conjunction with the sorry, I'm like kind of screwing up here. Now if I can get to it. So I select this. This crackling effect, by the way, these, of all the crackle effects, my go-to personally, I might actually use those others for lightning, are these two right here. Not the first one so much, but the second one. Because the second one is like the two symbols for the blood decals, except they're separate. In the ground, they're right next to each other. You got the brighter version, and you have the more fadeaway version. So I tend to use the fadeaway version, this one, and this one in conjunction with blood symbols. And it creates a very nice, it's really imprinted look, if you know what I mean. I use the same go-to here as well to create the Doom Eternal breakaway walls. I actually have the, I'll call it the pillar roof, because it goes up and down pretty much. You got to stretch this out to like a size of 512 by 48. Those are pretty good binary numbers used with this particular decal. Oh yeah, this is also a really good trick I've learned in terms of decals. Oh, ice, by the way. It's a matter of fiddling with values to get the various looks. I get toxic sludge, I get disodium, and I have like ice effects. I can go for like a muddy water as well, like a dirty water if I want, like a brownish something. But yeah, I usually base it on the presets. Like for instance, I will use sludge. Rune Glow is a great one for Hell and Fire as a preset. Rot might be good for dirty water. Sludge is sludge, and then what I do with sludge, I will change the color to a purplish. Say if I want disodium, I'll change it to like a purplish blue. Not just the regular color, but the emissive color. That's also important to fill with as well, because that'll drastically change the look. I can do all different sorts of things, really. Maybe make that more bluish. Yeah, that's totally an almost disodium look I have going on before. Not the exact value, but almost. And just fiddle around with it, really. Don't be afraid to use the entire color palette to see what you come up with. So you get that, and that. Choose decal. I go to ground. And boom. Instant disodium. And I got to put a pain hazard on there as well if I want to make that as such. You can always open my maps, and if you want an icy look, go to my map, borrow the decal, borrow these decals, especially copy-paste. Now, notice my network and objects are really up there because I put a lot into this map. However, I did save a bit, and it's mostly apparent in this room. Because you see this glow that the ice gives, that isn't resources. Well, it is, but it's not like what it could be. It's not lights. All this is, boom, look. Look at that. I'm clicking on the different one, but yeah. Choose decal, it's the shapes. See that? It's like a spotlight almost. So if you don't want to have actual lighting taking up your memory, I mean, I gotta use it sometimes. Sometimes it just doesn't look realistic, but in certain situations, such as if I take a default module and just add a blocking box to create a sky, then without that on top, you'll find it's too dark. Instead of placing all these lights that might have added reflectivity you don't even want, just use that, go into the shapes and add artificial lighting. And that saves so much memory. I use that trick in the Ethereal Shard level 2 as well in the blood area. The blood area, which would be like the big drop off, but I add like a pool of blood you could walk on, so it creates a new area entirely out of that. I also add the spotlight here to make this other decal. See if I take it away. Look at this. It's the same ice effect as outdoors elsewhere, but because of the inherent module lighting, it's not as bright. So instead of using lights, I use that right over that, and it looks almost the same. If you don't know the look, you wouldn't know it's any different. Let's see, just a few simple things, because kind of like decals, lighting, and custom geo are often tied together. Decals can be used, again, you have to use a decal in conjunction with the module's inherent lighting, as well as the filter effect I have, such as, if I can get off of here, the environment, I should say. I have atmospheric warm, which tends to brighten everything more so than other filter effects. So if I do that, I gotta have some kind of cool thing going on. I have the portal to hell here, and that was kind of clever because I put it with the natural effect coming from the quote-unquote window. This is neat because all this is, I didn't even really change the. Actually, I got the wrong one selected. The bright yellow, all that is just a. It's actually a really dark effect. It's just applied cleverly. See, again, more of the crackleck effects, I like to call it, based on this Photoshop thing going on. Boom. And this is what I was talking about with like custom geo. Because if you notice, some certain custom geo, like the stone wall, has accent color 1, accent color 2, and bloom color. Bloom intensity. And that's like automatic decals right there, automatic lights. Alright, I'm actually going to exit this for now. I am not going to save the changes. No, 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 no. And I'm going to go into my work in progress. This is a collab between Justin and other members of the community. I'm building my own arena. I'm actually taking this from Ethereal Shard level 4. I copied some of the geometry, so I have that all set. This might not look like much now, but listen to the music. This, by the way, is just your Groom Glow decal, but with the right ground texture applied. Ground decal. So, when I fiddle with this, I'm going to re-decal what I had in the other map, because I just copied the geo. Boom, you're going to begin to recognize this area from something. I have my sand decal there. And this will create variance in the ground. Alright. Always, with lava pools and stuff, and toxic sludge and all that, always use this decal as a border. It's the equivalent of having the blood in the pipes in old school Doom. I use, well, they don't really have names per se. The ones below, the ones I like to use for ice. This is all under grunge, by the way. The ice effects, as well as the liquid effect, as I like to call it. And I tend to use this one. I unstretch it. I tend to use that one upside down to fill in the gaps. I'll show you what I mean momentarily. So take that. Be careful when you turn around to certain walls, because if I turn too much, the decal might become unaligned. That's not the case here, but I am actually going to make this a little bit bigger. Size 320. I'm going to change it to 512. Maybe 128 that. Yeah, that's totally what I'm going to do. Boom. Like for a little section like this. Decal, decal. And I haven't even gotten to recreating classic textures either. I mean, I'm kind of doing that in a way, but... Alright, so I'm going to take that. I'm going to choose decal. I'm going to choose a much shorter one. Change that to 128. Flip that around. Now if I could just get it on there. Nah, it's being... I hate when Snapmap does this. On occasion, you'll find that the decal doesn't want to go on the wall. I do not... And I'm not sure why this is, to be honest. It's just... It might be a Snapmap bug, but I've had it where a certain direction, the decal does not want to show up on the wall. This is actually an interesting quirk to show off, because... Yeah. You know what? I'm actually going to place it here anyways. And that's weird because it works on this wall, just not on this wall. I'll place it there. But the point is, I'm actually going to go beyond there. What this will do, this will fill in the gap like so. And whether I'm using sludge or what have you, I tend to use that, do that trick. So now this, my friends, is why it's important to have thickness to your decal, like depth. Because, you notice how it hugs around the corner? That makes it a hell of a lot easier to just, you know, put it in the middle or something like that. In fact, this particular one increased the depth to 255 because watch what happens. See how that becomes more solid? I can put this more in the center. Take this, put that like so, etc., etc. I actually want to start going in the middle more. So this is another great way, great use of the what I call the filler decal. And boom. That also helps to add variety to your fire effects. Now notice what I did here. This decal exists to add texture to the wall. This is just your blank hotspot white color red. I'm trying to emulate classic Doom with the like kind of like a red glowing hell wall, but still different from the lava per se. Alright. I'm getting there. This arena is not going to be too complicated in all honesty. I'm just going to keep it nice and simple. Maybe I'll even make 2 arenas for this map. I don't want to hog it too much, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so what I really, really, really want to show off, I'm actually, might take this wall lower to 512. All right, where do I want to place this barrier? And I'm going to put it, it's going to be some simple architecture here. Nah. I'm just going to take this. It's not exactly the same as my other map as a result, which I'm not going to show off. That's my ethereal shard level 4. It's going to use the same theme. What theme is that, you might ask? Oh, here's where we get into recreating some classic stuff. You see this? All I did was take... these are both based off the Rune Glow. I just made the color a lot less prominent. It's still in the red zone, if you look at it. Yep, still red, just very dark. The emissive is all that remains. I don't want it to be to the same extent as the Rune Glow. And this, same exact trick, only blue and blue. So I take this. I'm actually going to copy it, because I want that as a reference. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this, I'm not really going to mess with the thickness. It's already at my go-to thickness of 128, which is way better than 32 IMO. Okay, this is not the spectacular part. This, you kind of see where I'm getting at, though. Now, does this look familiar to anybody? Anybody who's ever played classic Doom, Doom 1? I bet it does. I bet it looks like Mount Erebus, does it not? This is what I call the Erebus Arena. I might even, like, label it, too. Which, by the way, I have a method for doing that. I'm going to show you how to work with letters in a moment next. Whoops, I didn't mean to change the size of that, but that's all right. Speaking of size, oh man, this being this way again. I don't know why it doesn't want to take the one side of that. I'm not sure if reloading would do it, but I'll find a solution. That might be it. I just might have to reload the map. But I've had maps where I couldn't put decals in the ceilings. I can put it on every other surface. Usually it's one side of a... Usually it's one side of one of the... I can't think of the name right now. Blocking volumes or blocking box. Whatever, it's a side that's less important in this case, so I'll roll with it for now. Wrong one. And that is why it's always good to, yeah. That's why it's always good to have your reference decals, I call it, on the side of the arena. I can put it down on the ground too, but I'd rather put it somewhere where I'm not going to eventually put some other decal, if you know what I mean. I'm going to have to add more red to fill in the blanks, so to speak, but that's fine. I have to add more blue to fill in the blanks too. Let's see where else. Besides the size I can't add it to. By the way, this particular decal I'm using is actually in grunge, and it's this one. But you can change it up with a few others too, but I really don't want to. Notice that this and this are the same exact colors for the blocking volume. I just use a brick wall here, light industrial panel here. And that's great because it creates like a... And you have your emissive as well. And the emissive color, notice how it matches pretty well with the decal effect. And that's kind of important because when I go here, this emulates G-Stone from the original Doom. However, this is a quick method. I have a much longer method where I create individual bricks, but people get the point when I do just the green stone here as well. And it's great to sometimes mix it with your bloom texture, which is like all these little symbols. Because as you saw in Ethereal Shard, the cold version, I could change it with having bloom, not having bloom. I'm going to actually change... If I change the bloom, I'm also going to change the size. 512. There's like there's so many tricks to do with decal. I can go on and on about it, but I'm going to keep this video relatively short, so... The torture's almost over. Actually, I don't think it's torture for you, really, but... Hey, it's Doom. So I add that decal there. It's not too busy because I don't also use this behind that. Notice how I'm using the bloom in conjunction with the decal. Because technically the bloom is a form of decal, just a default form, if you will. I take this. I'm probably not going to keep this wall here, just so you know, so. And, ooh, looking good already. Looking good already. And for variance sake, I have the other effect I got here. And yeah, here's an example of how I could really change up a wall just by having a few different sizes, a few different bloom effects. I know the bloom effect here and here looks the same, more or less, but hey, there's limits. And if I really want to, I could always just take the bloom effect off one of the sides as well and just make a bunch of smaller ones. But it's not going to be the same. Because this decal, the resolution is scaled down too, so it looks different. It doesn't look like just a smaller version of a bigger one. It looks different because the resolution is lost, but in this case, it really helps to make it work. It has that much-needed variety. Gravitas. So now we're already feeling like a rebus. I'm going to show you well, two things. I'm going to show you how to create really cool-looking letters. Choose decal, go to lettering, go to letter E. Crap, before I do that... No, I saved it, okay. That's why I always save it, I just want to be sure. Size 512. I don't even need to save that size. What I'm going to do instead... I'm going to call this Erebus Arena. Maybe I'll have a camera effect when I go in. I already have the music change when the player enters the module by default. Nice and in the center. Whoa! Oh, because, yeah. Oh, crap, the same song twice. Isn't that trippy? Alright, so look at this. I have your regular Rune Glow missive. I do Control-G. Place it right in the center. X. Choose Decal Preset. And watch this. Dry blood, fresh blood, coral blood. These three. I could really have fun with this. See? I create like almost an outer glow by putting the blood as an inner glow. The others really don't work so much like this, but except maybe some things like steel. But it's really worth it to put a rune glow, then put a second letter down, and boom, dry blood, fresh blood, coral blood. Coral blood. I can fill with the color. Ooh, look at that. Look at that effect. Nice. If I go green. I can come up with some really... it's going to look very similar because the rune glow dictates the overall color per se. That's fine. Just add you want to add maybe a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of light. That's... Even just like 1 is too much. So, you know what? 0. It's either 0 or 1 you want. That's how little we're working with here, folks. So yeah, that creates a very interesting effect. And you can fill with the module lighting as well. You can fill with other lighting. This, now I know I said you could do whoops. Choose decal, go to shapes. Alphabetical order shades, come on. I'm gonna do a regular color. I'm gonna have to fill with the emissive as well. Actually, yeah. So you know what this means? This means I don't have to use lighting resources. I'm gonna have to change the size though. Well, you can kind of tell. Actually, you know what? Yeah. I could totally save on resources by not using lights for this section. I'm going to put this over the whole thing. .01% objects It's a lot better than doing this. Is the effect really that much different? Look, I could add the light, but the decal already doesn't work for me in this case. Because otherwise I'd be using the light as kind of a back-culling trick. See, look, that's too dark. The shadow is way too thick. So, I add the lights. That uses 0.3% of memory each. That's the thing. It would be wasting even more network. He has network disabled. Okay, that's great. But you know what? Any opportunity to save on a resource, go for it. And decals, that's why I really like decals. Maybe it uses 2% memory, but it's still... I can make a decal a lot bigger than a light. You know, that's the other trick, too. If I want to use decals in place of lighting, the decal can cover so much bigger area. So, yeah, if you had to choose one or the other, choose the decal. Choose the decal. So, boom. I have a pretty cool looking effect using the shape decal, so it looks like it's not too dark like that. I still got to figure out why you can't do it in certain sides, but I'll get to that. Alright, there's one other thing I wanted to do. Oh yes! I am going to show you some ways to recreate more classic textures. I am going to go to... Normally I would go to this wall, because if I go outside the decal, it's more bluish. In this case, I am going to go to stone wall. Accent color, bloom. I'm going to actually take away the bloom for this one. I'm going to go to 63 for blue. $48. Just fill with some colors until you get it. 33, 48, 64, 32. See, I try to do 32, but it takes it one. It changes the value by 1. Anyways, in terms of the warm lighting effect, this is what I'm going to use. So I'm going to go to 512. I'm going to go to a depth of 64. I'm going to go 256 height again. No. Actually, yes. In this case, I will. I might want the player to mantle up this one. I'm going to recreate the invulnerability area in Mount Erebus and Doom really quickly. I'm going to have to shift it a bit because I'm going to kind of condense the arena, but it gets the point across. What I'm going to do, twice there. Yeah, there's bugging here. So you see what I got here? I have decal, which is actually a wall panel. You can do any of the wall panels, and I use one of the like steel whatever presets. I'm actually not sure off the top of my head of the preset I used here. I think it's like a paint effect, but you can always copy paste it for the exact effect if you want, from one of my levels or from this map or what have you. Oh, it's this detail, okay, but it doesn't make a difference. I just wanted the rectangle. Oh, dark grunge. Yeah. It's more similar to that one, but yeah. Okay, and copy that. Alright, so that lined up pretty good. Notice I'm gonna keep part of the top. So it lines up like that. Ditto for this section here. And notice that I'm going to take this and add it here. I'm essentially recreating the stone texture from Classic Doom. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll show you in a moment. Again, because of the warm module effect, the environment effect, it's harder to notice here, but I'm actually going to save it. I can show you some additional effects. I'm I'm gonna go through Charter Eternal level 1. This is where I think I use it. I use it here pretty good, and a few other decals I want to show you as well. We're almost done, folks. We're almost done. All right, so it's gonna be in this module here. Here, you can tell a lot better here because, and not only that, I'm able to use the Hellstone Wall 01, the bluish one, because the module lighting in here, atmospheric warming, not warm, but warming, which is like a darker version of what I had before. So certain things will pop more. That's important to keep in mind with decals. How, again, I can't stress enough that when making decals, the chosen environmental effect in your module will make certain ones pop more than others in certain situations. So you gotta fiddle around with it. So you can really notice what I intend with the texture here even more so. And if you're in case you're wondering what this is supposed to be, some classic lights. Yes, it's a classic texture. Star Tan, my method anyway, is not the only method. I use a bunch of different sized blocking volumes. These are set to block demons, block ASI false, block players false. They're just the shots. I really want just a regular wall to be collision. It only sticks out by like a unit or two. That's it. So that's my method anyway. So if it's like size 64, 48, I make it 4 less total, 2 less on each side. So you have that just a tad bit of a gap. Of course, I like to do my transitions again with blood decals. The Doom Eternal effect where you punch through the wall. This is the same go-to effect, but with like a really red emissive decal. Again, this one is based on the Rune Globe modified. I have your runic blood from the blood tab, the runic symbol, as well as the ground cracking symbols, the crack symbols. Cracks of Doom, I like to call it. Or in some instances, the butt crack of Doom. Oh yeah, this is sludge, by the way. I just used the straight up sludge preset, and I use the same effect, the same grunge, and the same ground type of thing for everything. I add the lights. I mean, I don't use the method here so much that I should be using. I'm using point lights here. But look, my network isn't so bad. My memory is great. If I delete the light, that's 0.3% memory that just went down. See? 999, 996. Even if I use, say, up to 2.2% memory versus 0.3 for a decal, keep in mind I can make the decal way larger than the range of a light. So I can save, I can easily cut my memory usage and network usage by 1/4 by using decals instead of lights. So who knows, I might go back to this map as well and add additional areas as a result. You can actually add additional areas with detail and with lots of decals. Alright, so if I can go to a classic module. I'm going to go to Arena. I can't put it in this map full. But that's fine. I'm going to exit the editor. Yes. Save changes. Nope. I'm going to right back into BP Whip. Luckily for the fast loading times, thank God for small favors. Classic receiving area. You would let me add it. I'm just trying to add in its own section. Boom. See this? Does that not look like what I showed you in the other map? Yes, it does. And obviously, this is the star series of textures I've been showing you as well. It's possible to do this kind of texture too, but I like to use my go-to, the stone that I'm using by default, which changes size based on how you stretch it. But here's a good texture convention that they actually realized in Snapmap. They like to use the lighter gray floor paneling with the trim, the automatic trim of the texture. With decals, I gotta kind of have to recreate it by using that dark long decal I had to make that darker, and then I use the that dripping decal to make that kind of effect. So boom, you could recreate classic textures that look modern in the Doom 2016. It gives character to your maps, and it actually affects gameplay because it works in conjunction with the module environmental effects. I'll add like a like a FX hazard, and hazards are complicated because you can only move it if you know exactly where the center is. It won't allow you to go over like most of the thing and select it, unfortunately. Not, and definitely not like a blocking box where you just select the side. You have to know. Sorry. Oh man, I'm just talking mile a minute. I need some water. Which I have it right in front of me, so I'm gonna drink it. Yeah, that's the unfortunate side effect of a certain module like atmospheric warming. Less noticeable, but stone wall. See, that already looks a little bit better, but again, the lighting here is not as effective as in some of the regular modules. See, that looks a little bit too dark as fire blue. It looks pretty good, but now, I'll be honest, I think I don't have this completely on the mark, because I could change it from warming to warm, but now maybe it looks too bright. To be honest, after the effect, halfway through it looked the best, I think. Anywho, I'll go to FX, I'll add some fire. I like to use, for every 2 small fires, like maybe 1.5 medium fires. And I always like to rotate it as I add things, just like with the decals. Like a random decal like this, I'll rotate as I add. Medium fire. Maybe one by the border. I know this is inside this, but this is going to move anyways, so I don't care. Oh, man. Cough tight. And then 1 large fire. Which, in retrospect, I didn't really plan I was going to put this, so it doesn't matter. But just a way to add character to the maps, if you will. So yeah, it's already feeling and sounding like Mount Erebus. I got to add more. Oh, here's something else I could do too. Oh, I got the right one. Perfect. I'm going to choose decal. I'm going to go to ground. Decal preset. I'm going to try to recreate the cliff texture in Doom. I really shouldn't be doing it right over the same wall. I should, in fact. Yeah. Yeah, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to recreate another classic texture. There you go. Which I actually filled with the concept back when. And I'm going to use another trick. I'm going to take into account the fact that it does not light as well from in back. Because the front's going to be a different texture entirely. It's going to be like skulls. Oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do for that too. Okay, a missive. That actually has no effect, unfortunately. So I'm gonna just have to be careful with what decal I use. Instead of the bigger one, I'm gonna go for a more chunkier version. All I'm doing is using the same ground decals I've been using for the I mean, I'm purposely not changing up the decal so much because I want a consistent looking texture. But yeah, I bet you all know what classic texture this looks like. If I wanted to, I'm going to change the color. Well, with the emissive effect, it won't work so well. Again, if I want a whitish one, it's kind of limited by the module lighting, the environment effect, so I'd have to fill with that too. Case in point. X warming. It already looks whiter. But yeah, I bet you all know what texture that's recreating. So yeah, it's so awesome that you can recreate classic textures in this with this method. In this case, I want black in between, so I'm not going to use my light there. I'm going to put a single light source there, which would take like easily like a whole bunch of actual lights to light up the back properly. So I'm going to use this method instead. Furthermore, I'm going to use these decals. I'm going to start using these now. In fact, it's probably size is a bit bigger. Whoops. I hate when that happens. It disappears kind of. 768. I'll just change it to 1024. Save myself some trouble. Alright, anytime that wants to show up, I'll change. If that happens, you gotta change your angle. Actually, that decal is just being kind of stubborn. So, you know what? Yeah, it's being stubborn all over the board. Wow. Maybe it's a Snapmap bug. No, now all the decals are doing it. See, this is actually great that I got this on video because it just goes to show some of the issues you have with decals. It's not doing that here. And always change up your angles when doing that, working with decals in that manner. It seems to be just this one. Probably because I'm copy pasting it based on where it was last placed, and where it was last placed is actually kind of an iffy location, if you will, if that makes sense. Yeah. So that folks is another reason why it's great to have a what I call the go-to decal, one that you know is good. Ah, damn. I'm having that trouble with this one, so I'm not going to bother. So, just, if that happens, just, yeah. Now for the inside, I want to do something that's also very classic Doom. I'm actually going to just copy... You know what? I didn't even want to do that. Select one of these with actually wrong one. Okay, the right one. I'm gonna go down to Doom textures. I am gonna go to the skulls. Ooh. Change that to 224. Height. What's 768 minus 32, folks? 68, 58, 38, 736. I'm actually going to keep the depth the same. Actually, I might have to do it a little bit less because I have to remember it's on the inside. See if I like this effect or not. Or I might go use a different method for creating the skulls because they're a bit small for my taste. I'll say that. I'm gonna go down to 160. So this right now is a bit samey. You can see what I'm going for. I'm going for like the skull, the Doom skull texture. Again, the main problem with this is that I think the skulls are too small. It makes them look too repetitive. But I could always try something with decals. Not that. I'm going to use a decal preset. Actually, I changed my mind. I am going to keep the emissive. I'm going to use... If I can select the red one. Use this as a base. I'm going to actually lower the emissiveness, but still so you can see it enough. So I can get it really low, but still there. Choose a different decal entirely, like a blood decal. Again, keep in mind that the directional lighting might muddle the effect as well. This I'm just pure experimenting with. But in case you're wondering, the texture I'm going for, if it's in this, boom, this. Maybe I'll even consider using these skulls. You know what? That might not be a bad idea. I might just use these skulls instead. But let's see. That might be worth it in this case. I don't want to mix classic and modern, but you know what? Well, that's a weird bug, huh? Huh. Why does the skulls appear there? And if I don't want it full... Actually, it doesn't look bad like this. I could always lower the color to make it look darker if I wanted. Boom. And that's important if you ever create a classic module. You maybe don't always want it to look like full bright. So you can simulate like the old school engine method of changing brightness. Unfortunately, as you guys already know, with this kind of wall, guess what you can't do? It doesn't allow you to place decals. It's so ridiculous. They should have allowed it. So I'm going to come up with a solution to this. In fact, I'm going to look for a different Doom texture for a different effect entirely. This would be great if I use it smaller, but not bigger, unfortunately, because you got to really make your decals more textures, and the texture by nature is too redundant because I can't scale it up. Unfortunately, it's it's a limiting factor. So you know what I'm going to do? I might actually abandon that idea for now. And instead, that's the only other drawback, because I'm using this with lighting, or I'm using the lack of lighting to recreate a texture in this case. And it works here. But see what happens here. I see the base texture. This might be a case where I'm going to increase the thickness 255. See, because look what happens there. I have one more trick up my sleeve, which I never tried before, that I'm going to do. You know how I use decals to create... Damn, still that same problem where I can't put it on the side. So I use this decal here to create a lighting effect. Maybe I could use it to make darkness. It's gonna be a long shot because it just might not do anything. Specular color. It might just disappear. I think that's what's gonna happen. Unless... I have an idea, actually. I'm gonna go to decal preset. Yes, I actually just... Okay. This is what I'm going to do instead. I'm going to take what already is looking darker. I'm going to apply it to that wall. It's a little bit darker, not dark enough, so let's see what I can do. Zero, zero, 255. That had no effect. Great. Oh, here we go. Diffuse opacity. I can change opacities. Okay, there we go. That's better. Because if I change diffuse opacity versus specular opacity, I can achieve a darker effect overall. But let's see how it works with this. It seems to overlap the decal, unfortunately. So, I'm going to have to fill with some more values. I'm going to reapply the depth to 128. Because I want this guy, which I should have waited to add, to have the better depth. Because now I can fill with this on the fly. So this is where opacity channels come in now. Normal opacity. It's really a lot of trial and error. Power opacity. That does not really affect anything power. I don't want that. That doesn't seem to have much of an effect, so specular opacity. I do that and zero it. It doesn't have the glow effect, so it doesn't really matter. $240. Okay, so this case, specular color. Go bright. Yes. If I go super bright there, watch what happens. Okay, that's gonna be my go-to. I'm gonna put it right there. All right, height. No, sure, I'm gonna put 1024. See how the extra bright? Oh, I did it. I figured it out. I figured out how to create that effect like this when the lighting is brighter. Isn't that neat, folks? And you don't have to like redo all the fiddling. You can just copy and paste it from mine if you want again. Unfortunately, I have that as the thicker one, so I'm not going to be able to edit it so easily. But you get the idea. You get the idea. I just unraveled the mystery. I solved the problem. Crap. And this is why I want this thinner. But you know what? I can do that. I can do it now. I'm going to change the depth to 32. Depth 32. And that doesn't need it. Oh, I gotta be careful here though. This depth I'm gonna change to just 64. There. Depth 64. This is one of those rare cases where I don't want it to bleed off to the side too much. Because I need this version of the decal for that which is already dark. See how well that matches, folks? Isn't that... That's just supreme. I can't believe I figured out that But I should have figured it out sooner because I pretty much used that method to try to recreate this texture, which, whoops, I gotta... Which I gotta again fill with the values here now because it's too bright. So I can totally do that. Go to opacity channels. Yeah, because of the decal, I'm gonna use different opacity channels, and yeah, this is more of the effect I want. Hotspot health stone wall 01. Why am I still using that? I should be at stone wall. This actually needs to have more blue in it. All right. Choose color. I add more blue to this too. Well, there's no hard and fast rule. If I want alternate colors of the classic texture, I can do that too. There we're going to add a little bit more red. 48. In this case, I'll try it. Bloom could look interesting with this too, but that's just a stone one. Alright, so folks, maybe I could actually, that's not going to look too much different. Emissive. Oh, I could fill with that totally. In fact, if I just add a very subtle opacity of 4, I think that looks a little bit better. Opacity 4. Opacity. And boom, I have the cliff texture from the original Doom recreated here. And I have this texture recreated. And I showed you a whole bunch of things today too. Alright, so you know what? For now, I'm actually going to wrap up the video. I'll keep you guys posted on additional ways to fill and create decals, and you can always open my maps for reference as well. This is the Shades Man in the house, signing off. Peace!